So it's my great pleasure to listen to Cassie and Andy and the previous guests and now comment on the subject. As Cassie said, diversity has been emphasized a lot in organizations as evidence of good company, but rarely can people explain why it is so. Today I have learned a lot and give me the chance actually to give me the chance to think about why really diversity matters in organizations and especially in the digital era. So I'm not an expert on the subject, but in the spirit of diversity, I participate. Now, I think a general theme, as Andy pointed out, is that diversity matters by impacting the dynamics of complex systems. Most of the current social and economic challenges are related to complex and social systems, such as climate change, fight against COVID, financial crisis, and globalization. Now, so in those complex systems, people are diverse in terms of information, incentive, and specialized capacities. Such diversity inevitably leads to different output. And diverse output could be desirable both in natural environment and in business competition. And the breakdown of complex systems is often caused by uniform response from diverse participants, and they can turn uncorrelated risk into highly correlated ones. Now, so let's take finance as example. So in institutions and peoples and the products and market participants, they are all diverse. But in well-functioning markets, it leads to efficient market outcome and resource allocation. But then as the financial products become complicated, information asymmetry could become more severe. And under shocks, with asymmetric information, response becomes uniform. And there's uniform panic from diverse participants. And then that causes information cascade, runs fire sales, and liquidity and credit crunch. So liquidity spiral amplifies the shocks, and it leads to fully scaled crisis. And as Marcus Brennemeyer, another Luohan Academy member, has wrote earlier. So I think there are a couple of key takeaways here. The first is that a transparent and effective information exchange among diversified participants plays a key role. A second is that if those diversified agents have the ability and information to make decisions, the result, the dynamics of this complex system will be different. And I think that diversity can also be a driving force of innovation. And I'm going to cite several people's comment on this. And as Brian Arthur, another Luohan Academy distinguished fellow, and top point out that the nature of technology is really to combine the different ingredients together, which leads the innovation. So of course, so I think that then diversity is the precondition for this to happen. And as Paul Romer talked about, the non-rivalry goods and combinational explosion explains why in the digital age there's much more innovations. Nowadays, much more innovations. And so also what this really says is that if we have the diversity of effective decision-making units and the transparent information flow, they are most powerful ways for individuals, firms, and organizations to be sustainable in a UK world, which means essentially it's a vague, uncertain, complicated, and ambiguous world. Now, and I think here, the relation between diversity and the complex system, information plays a key role. And that is because if each agents, they have different information, incentive, and constraints. And so they deal with things differently, and the interaction matters. And for any successful organizations or successful complex system to be sustainable, it should have the capacity to promote information transparency. It elicits the wisdom of the crowd, of the individuals, as Scott mentioned, to help individuals to make the better decisions. And if they have more complex information, they have better tools to coordinate. And also that enables them to respond to shocks and make adjustment more swiftly and even in real time. And I think on that regard, digitization plays a key role. And as we all know that digitization has revolutionized the cost of creating and exchanging information. So nowadays that the information can be exchanged in really close real time, and there's a lot of feedbacks happening. And that really is reshaping how individuals, they acquire information, they coordinate with each other. That enables a lot of individuals units within the complex system to be able to make diverse decisions, and they can coordinate with each other swiftly. Now, I'm going to give you several examples since I'm working nowadays in a technology company to see, I think, how digitized information is play a key role by changing the relation between the diversity and the organizations or complex systems. One example is here. What I'm showing is a digital factory. It's called the Xunxi Digital Factory, and in that factory, so this is in the clothes making industry. And as we know, for clothes, they have fashions, and the fashions phase changes very fast. And therefore, traditionally, clothing makers, they have to make orders like at least half years before. And it's very hard for them to change the inventory if the trends, the fashion change. But nowadays, actually, this whole thing can be done within 10 days because there's a lot more quicker information, and as with that, so digitized information with the automation of the manufacturing process that makes this whole thing much more effective. So nowadays we have much quicker reaction, we have much flexible production, and we have more personalized items that can be made much swifter. So that gives you so we have much diversified products and much swifter shift of the production. Now, a second example is the coordination within organizations. So nowadays, across the world, in the United States, we have Teams. In China, we have the DingTalk and other apps. Nowadays, those apps, not only you can have the conference calls like the Zooms and share the documents, actually, it can help each individuals actually to, within the organization, more and more organizations use this kind of digitized coordination platform. They are able to coordinate with each other. They are more importantly, we can measure their individual productions more precisely, and so that builds trust among the diversified individuals, and that also releases the power that gives the individual workers much more freedom. And now that promotes the working at home, all those kind of stuff. So that's really the future of coordination within the organizations. Thanks for the sharing of the information, measurement of the performance. Now, let me give you a third example that coordinates what I think Cassie said earlier. And if you look at what this says is on the e-commerce market, and on the left panel, you can see that this is the correlation between the two random consumers. What is the correlation between their preference? Is the preference diversified? And if the preference is very highly coordinated, you're going to see a lighter color, and which is you can see from the line. But you can see that there's very little correlation of their preferred items, which means on the demand side, it is very diversified. Now, which is output, but you can see actually the output on the platforms, but most of the increase of the products is really through the variety. So companies, sellers, they compete through a variety, from the output variety, not through the identical products, as we learn from just textbook economics. So variety matters because demand is varies, and the ability to produce varied goods is crucial for the business in today's environment. And the last example I gave is going to correspond to what Andy just talked about. And so I think I really appreciate Andy's point. What I'm trying to add on to that is that I think that different ways to deal with this systematic risk. Let me give you a couple of real-time examples. So because the COVID is also another kind of systematic shock. And I'm giving you some examples of the My Bank. You can see on the left panel as the COVID shock happens, as you can see from the red line, that is the default rate, and probability of default within 30 days just shoot up quickly. But in the meantime, you can see that there's very quick adjustment of the lending strategy. So that is the admission rate should just change dramatically. That's the first one. So because you have the big data information, you are able to make the decision much quicker, swifter than before. On the right panel, you can see that actually not only you can make the swifter decisions, actually you can even allow for more newcomers. So actually the people getting the financial support is not reduced. You can still find the people who have the capacity, but they are really need the money, but they have the ability. So because of the much more information, what I'm trying to say is that traditionally, from my understanding in finance, because of asymmetric information, we try to assess the probability of default, then we have some kind of reserve to prepare for that. Now, there's another way to do it. I'm not saying it's going to completely replace that, but I think that's really crucial because we're seeing this really happening for the fintech industry across the world, especially in China. That is, you can have much real-time information to make you to adjust. So rather than estimating the given probability of default, you change the probability exposure much quicker. That is another way to do it. And another point I just corresponds to what Andy said. Imagine that if we have much better transparent exchange of information, that helps us really to deal with all kinds of shocks, including COVID, including the financial crisis. In that case, then actually there won't be as much uniform panic. That is, I think that systematic risk, a lot of that is the panic, and that can be reduced. I'm not saying all risk will be reduced, but I think there are more ways to deal with in the digital era. So that is what I have learned. So anyway, let me summarize in end. I think that diversity really matters by impacting the dynamics of the complex system. And what I'm really emphasizing here is that in between the diversity and the complex system, information plays a key role. And that I think it plays there's a couple of two points that can be taken away from the organizations. One is that the transparency and effective information exchange are crucial for what we want to have diversity. But in addition to that, if we have digitized information, if we have transparent, effective information exchanging, that will really enable them, and that will help them to make diversified decision-making ability. And so I guess my point is that the diversity matters for the dynamics of the complex systems, and digital information revolution plays a key role by reshaping that relation. It's thus reshaping how we organize ourselves and coordinate with each other. Thank you.